Hi, I'm Jason Scudeleri, and we are in the 10 Enthusiast Tech Center. I run the shop for TRUCKIN Magazine, and we got Jeremy Cook, the editor of TRUCKIN Magazine here. He's going to install a 4.7 drop by DJM suspension. Jeremy, why don't you tell us a little bit about the kit?
Well, that's about it. It's a 4.7 drop, and DJM is known for using control arms instead of a spindle and a strut or a spindle and a coil. They've always 90% of the time used control arms, so that's what makes them different. That's what we're installing today.
Is that just it's an upper lower control arm, a lower control arm?
Upper lowers, along with a flip kit in the rear. Today we're going to try to knock out, in just a few minutes here, knock out one whole side, get everything off, get the control arm. We already cheated a little bit, loosened things up, and we're going to try to knock it out real quick.
All right. Here, I'll help you. Let's do this. Use my training. Basically, I mean, the kit's a pretty easy kit. And the hardest thing is just, you get the strut out, unbolt the control arms, replace it with new control arms. And you don't need to change the strut, you don't need to change the spring. You can use all the stock stuff other than the upper and lower control arms. And this will give you 4 inches in the front. And then the rear is a flip kit and what, a shackle? Or just flip kit?
Just flip kit.
Just flip kit.
Where are your tools? Right there. Alright.
Yeah.
Impact?
Yeah, through the impact there. With the, yep. We may have a real nice shop, but we're not that professional yet. We're still learning with this Facebook Live stuff. Still got the top. Yeah. You don't want to drop that, Jeremy. What size is this one? 19.
It should be. Nope. It should be right there.
Use a wrench or a socket? Sorry. 19. Short one?
Yep.
We can probably, can we unload this? Get up in there?
Yeah.
Pick it up, ready? Oh, we're not, are we out from the bottom? There we go. Okay. Here's the hardware.
Alright, strut. Strut. Drop it down now. Do the strut.
Jeremy, what would you say this should take you? I mean, if you're on the ground, that's the end of the gap. What are you thinking? Couple hours for the front. Give yourself a couple hours for the rear. So half day on a Saturday.
I think anyone that works on anything could do it in a full day, front and rear. One full day.
The only thing needed would be an alignment.
Yep.
Ready to go. Where are the new parts? I'll show them. Right here. So here's the upper. Urethane. Are these all urethane? So urethane bushings, new ball joints. Pretty nice piece.
Yeah, bushings are already in, grease fittings are already in, some grease is already in. We prepped them. This guy's tricky.
So as you can see, Jeremy just doesn't write for the magazine. He actually gets his hands dirty too.
We have an issue on this side that we did not have on the other side.
What's going on, Jeremy?
The coil is in the way of this bolt. So let's see. Adjusted it. Close.
Want me to pull it out more?
Yeah.
That's about it. Can you want to take the shred out from the top first?
Try to push it up. Try to push it over. Yeah, we're gonna have to.
All right. So want me to lower it?
No, we can get to it.
Get it right there. Cool. Now is this under a ton of tension? I didn't see you take the other side apart.
No. This will drop out without.
Oh, so you're not taking the shred apart?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have to do that on the other side also, or did you leave the shred in there?
No, the bolt slid past the coil, but it runs right into the coil on this one. I don't remember what side.
I wonder if we can. You can't turn the coil.
I was trying. I think if I.
Might just have to loosen it up. Might just have to loosen up the strut a little bit. What's happening is the coil spring on the strut is interfering with the bolt, so you can loosen everything up, but you just can't slide the bolt out enough to get the upper control arm completely out. Sometimes it shows it doesn't matter how much prep you do, still run into little issues.
Got an electrical plug on one of them.
They just have to loosen it up a little bit. You have to pull that thing out of the way.
That's the plan.
The other one, you turn it that way also?
Huh?
The other bolt was turned that way on the other side?
Yeah.
The way
The coil is.
wow.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue at all. So. Exactly. So now we should be.
There we go. All right. Slight technical difficulty, but control arms out.
Upper.
You can pull the lower one out first, or you can put the new one in.
Ditch the lower, ditch the upper.
cool thing about this kit is you don't have to worry about the strut. You don't have to worry about compressing the spring down to pull the spring off the strut. You can just leave it in there. We had to loosen ours up a little bit to get the bolt that was stuck, but other than that, it's a pretty simple deal. It's just upper lower control arm, that's it.
Yeah, no old days with the giant pry bar from Home Depot to get the lower control arm up with the coils.
Yep.
That's more lifted, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. That's lifted or lowered these things in the old days. Struts make things a little better.
If there's anyone out there that has any questions or anything about this kit, let us know. We'll try to answer them the best we can. Or even if you want to ask Jeremy a question about TRUCKIN Magazine, where they're going, what's coming up, anything like that, feel free to ask him and he'll try to answer them the best he can. Bottom was simple.
So, we're apart. So like I said before, we're all, one thing I did on the last one was shoved a little grease in there before I started putting things back together.
Jeremy, what year is it? What year is this kit good for?
I believe 7 to 13.
Okay. So that you can do crew cab, extra cab, everything with that?
I believe so.
Still 7 to 60.
This was a 4.7, right?
Yep.
I take it they come in 2 4s. Are there different? Okay.
4, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 4, 6, 4, 7.
Okay.
Yeah, DJM almost always has a full line on almost everything from like 2.3 to 4.7. Some of the older like 88, 98s, I think they even do like a 5.7 or a 6.8. So these both go through from the front.
Yep.
And we have some washers.
Yeah. Keep going.
Down.
Down. Oh, Jerry's your little screwdriver, something up there, just like center this up. I'm almost there.
Clean the threads off real quick and throw a little Loctite on there.
Any questions?
That was 18 minutes. No questions, huh?
Not yet. No, the Facebook Live is something we were just starting with. So this is a new thing. We are just, trying to give it a little shot here at Truckin', see how it went. Hopefully you guys are tuned in, and if anything, get something out of this. At least you know where to buy the suspension component to lower your Chevy.
So DJM provides nylock nuts to go with the original bolts. That's what we're buzzing back on. Their sleeves are perfect width, so you can tighten the hell out of them and not squeeze the polyurethane to death, so it's not working properly. So they built in the idiot proof a little bit for us, which is just fine with me. Keep our pressure up high, but we'll still go back and torque. We'll still go back and check everything, but we're 99% of the time we're covered.
Anthony, no questions? Nothing.
We did have a question that will it affect the towing at all? Will putting a lowering kit affect your towing at all?
The only thing it would affect, geometry-wise, it doesn't affect anything. The only thing it would affect is if you're bottoming out after the fact. And what you would do there is either add a C-notch, which isn't required on these, but if you're slammed and you're towing every day, that's a possibility. But a better option would be bolt-in airbag kit, like Firestone.
Like an overload?
Overload bag kit, yeah. Firestone and Airlift are probably the two giants that make kits for trucks like these, and makes a big difference. I have that on mine.
And you can make that almost where, I mean, it's all in the cabin of your truck where you got an onboard compressor and you don't have to get out, you don't have to air it up.
Yep, I've got that. My O2 GMC that we worked on in the magazine has the Firestone kit, I believe, and came new on the truck and still works no problem. There's a 6, that's a 4 in the rear, but still has the kit for towing. Zero maintenance.
So you kind of get best of both worlds. You can still tow with the truck, and you get the lower look.
Yeah, so that's the it's another step, but unless your truck is majorly, unless your truck has like a 6 or more inch lift on it, there's no fab. It's just a bolt-on couple hour deal. I don't like squeaks, so if anyone's wondering what I'm doing, just grease everything up before we even get going here.
What year is this truck?
2010 Sierra. So DJM supplies new the alignment cams, and then you run the old ones on one side, and you run their new tab ones on the other side. I guess we better stick. We're not 1,000% sure which side the alignment guys would like better, but we're gonna keep them uniform.
So they're either really like us or really hate us.
Right.
So we did have one question here, Jeremy. When these ball joints wear out, or if they do wear out, is there a way to install the factory Chevy ball joints on these particular control arms?
No, they're pressed in from the factory. So
Lowers are pressed in.
but you can buy the replacement ones from Napa. Right? It's not
Upper ones are bolted in, lower ones are pressed in, and you buy all this stuff right from
Napa.
yeah. Oh, from Napa.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Cragen or anybody who's got hard parts.
so there's a replacement at your auto parts store.
So yeah, so upper it'd just be a matter of unbolting and bolting it back in. The lower you would have to you'd have to press in it.
Which is no different from a factory control arm.
Right.
Oh, there's one over here too.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
This is
This
is the factory.
Oh yeah, that's
on
fine.
the other side.
No, that works.
And then where's our
Another bolt. Our biggest battle is just trying to figure out where Jeremy put the parts after he took them off.
There we go. Any other questions?
I just had a question pop up here. It says, does the kit come with new drop shocks, or do you have to purchase that separately?
No, this kit, the beauty about this kit is it's a upper and lower control arm drop only. No strut, no spring, only upper and lower control arms, and that lowers your truck 4 inches in the front.
So you actually have a stock ride. What you would do if you're trying to go for all-out performance, you would buy a factory replacement strut from a Bilstein or somebody like that. But I don't know that it's necessary. The rear comes with DJM standard shocks.
Okay, so the rear is a flip kit and a shock.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about this kit. You don't have to change the spindle, you don't have to change the spring, you don't even take the strut out of the truck. So you're not compressing the spring down to take the strut apart. It's a simple, really simple deal with an upper lower control arm only. And as fast as you can unbolt and untighten all the bolts and slip them back in, which sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge. It's about as quick as it gets done.
I like putting the grease in, but it adds my own challenges here. But it's worth it later on. So what we're doing is indexing these cams in the right place, and we're setting them dead center because we don't know what the alignment's going to be. So we're setting them all equal in the dead center of their adjustment for the alignment guys. There. Almost. Obviously getting the cams right so the alignment guy doesn't hate you and charge you double is pretty key.
So Jerry, what other kind of tech stories or events does TRUCKIN Magazine have coming up?
We've got the Truckin Off-Road Festival in August in near St. Louis. Just put me on the spot. I can't think of the name of the town, but you can see the arches from there. But it's a different name than St. Louis at their event center, and we're going to do our truck and throwdown there, and some off-road stuff, and have some judged classes for anything you can think of, minis, classics,
Lowered, raised, whatever.
everything.
Now the throwdown, that's the, this is the event that you actually have. Are you still doing it like some sort of autocross and some sort of braking, stopping challenge?
Drag strip, autocross, yeah, there'll be a full drag strip running for 2 days, autocross, slalom, speed stop, show and shine, and we believe we're going to have a dyno out there too. So it'll be definitely a bragging rights kind of thing, and everyone's welcome. It used to be, when it was here in SoCal, it was invitation only. Now it's everybody shows up on Friday and qualifies.
But yeah, I'm assuming you got to show up on Friday to do the whole event the whole weekend. You got to start to finish, or just
You show up Friday, and if you qualify, you race Saturday afternoon.
Cool.
So it's
Now, what is there? Is it year picked, or is it all years?
everything.
long as
We're
it's
gonna
a truck.
take how we're gonna decide is the best, the most competitive guys, and some of the, like we always have done. We'll also do some of the, I don't want to call them oddballs, but some of the fringe. You always like to throw in the ones, a few fringe guys and wild cards and so on and so forth. So there might be pro guys going against guys that have never been out there before, but we'll see.
And just had a question here, Jeremy.
Who's asking the question?
This is Jacob Boss is asking this question. Who makes this kit? I know that's DJM, but do they make a kit for a 1988 Ranger?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
3-4.
A 3-4? 3-4 kit.
All right, Jacob, there's your answer.
So we've actually got Mark from DJM here, but he's behind the camera filming right next to you guys. So we're getting some of our answers off camera.
So if you want the expert answer to all your DJM questions, we got the man here who can do that.
But for all you youngins out there, we were just talking about earlier, DJM is one of those companies that were there when the whole sport truck, when the 88 Chevys came out and changed the world, and the whole sport truck scene blew up. Trucking was right there, and so was DJM. So the fact that we're still doing this right now, 20-something years, 30 years later, 25 years later, 27 years later. It's, something like that. It's pretty impressive. I mean, the good guys get to stick around, I guess. What I'm trying to say.
Well, it says a lot. It says a lot about their part that they're putting out there. That they are still around. They're still making parts for the newer, from the old to the new stuff now.
Got some tight fitting washers. Only thing holding us up there.
Trucking's a big part of this tech center, but we also have our other brands out of here. Street Rodder Magazine, Super Chevy Magazine, Chevy High, Classic Truck Magazine. So we run a lot of different magazines out of this particular shop. Trucking's one of them, and they do use the shop a lot. We get a lot of their stories out of this shop. You see either in print, digital.
Run through our big sponsors, Jason.
Sponsors of the tech center?
Yeah. Well, why not?
Direct Lift is one of our big sponsors. That's what's holding this truck up here. We're also sponsored by Miller Electric. They have all our welding stuff, TIG welders, MIG welders, plasma cutter. They supply us with all that stuff, our cool welding helmets, gloves, jackets.
I think we are set up.
Ready to put that spindle back on?
Well, I think I could buzz these guys on now. So.
The biggest thing that Jeremy fought here is just getting those alignment cams in place. There's a little dowel pin in the body itself, or the frame itself, that those things got to click into. That way when the alignment guy gets there, he just got to turn those half moons around to get the alignment where he needs it. If you don't get them in that spot, one, they can turn on you while you're something loosens up, but two, you're not gonna get from side to side the same camber or the same cam specs in and out on the upper control arm.
Now, Jason, Dustin has a question, and he's looking for a 2016 single cab Silverado lift kit. Does DJM make a kit for that?
Nope, they specialize in lowering. So there's some people out there that do it both, but DJM, they focus on just lowering the trucks, which gives you that high quality part, and that's what they've stuck to for all these years, and that's why they're so good at it.
Yeah, and much like a lot of our Facebook, we have the great question of, do you lift it or do you lower it? Can you tell us some of the benefits of lowering a truck?
Well, one, it's preference. I get a lot of comments of, why would you lower a car? Why would you raise a car? It's personal preference. You got to respect the person who has taken the time to customize their own vehicle to whatever their whatever their need is or whatever they want to see out of it. This truck, our customer wanted to lower their truck, so we went to DJM, got our components. Now we're lowering it, but they're that's all on the driver and the owner of the car. Some people choose to raise them, some lower them. I've done both to a few of my cars. I do more of the hot rod stuff. A lot of the stuff for street rodder and classic trucks, and most of our stuff's lower just because they're street rods, hot rods. But this market, you can go either way. This truck, we're going to lower. It's going to be a 4.7 drop. We'll get that thing down low enough, but not so low that you can't drive it without a set of airbags or something.
Actually, since we have a second, these are how you don't lift a truck. Somebody attempted to level this truck out before our friend here bought it. What this does is push the coil out. It's like a trick that goes back to the old days. So they had two of these on each side, probably lifting it, that spreads it out and it lifts it up like an inch. That is not how you lift trucks. If you're trying to level the truck out, you either lower the back 2 inches or you put a spacer, goes in on top of the strut here, a metal spacer bolts to the strut and bolts to the strut tower.
Not recommended, but definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen come through here. A lot of times you'll actually see those little spacers flipped over to compress the spring to try to lower your car. Problem with that is you try to lower it, you one, run out of spring because now you're going to bottom out on that little clamp that's compressing the spring down. Two, it's just not the right way. Spend some money, do it the right way. You're gonna enjoy the ride much more, and it's gonna last forever. And Jeremy's just taking a little extra time here just to kind of get this alignment in more of a neutral position, so it can still be driven to the alignment shop, which is about 1.5 miles away from here, instead of setting it from one end or completely opposite the other end, so you ain't got a bunch of negative or positive camber and caster in there. This way it's kind of neutral. We'll set the toe to about 0, and that way we can drive it up the street. We don't have to have a flatbed or anything. If you prefer to have a flatbed, that works too.
So yeah, we're dealing with a cam on each side, a washer that's a little small for the bolt, and the coil right in the wrong place. So if anyone's wondering why it's taking 5 or 10 minutes to put a bolt in. That's the answer. about there. Any other questions pop up? So again, when we're talking about having the right size sleeves, we're tightening the hell out of it, and we're not binding up the control arm. We're not smashing the polyurethane where it can't do its job.
Again, guys, if you're just tuning in, this is one of the first Facebook Lives TRUCKIN Magazine has attempted to do. We're going to do a lot more coming up, and they'll just get better. But what we're doing today, we have a 2010 GMC Sierra, just standard cab, and we are lowering it. Jeremy's lowering it, doing a 4.7 drop with a DJM suspension component. And the front's just an upper lower control arm that gives it a 4-inch drop. You don't have to change the spring, strut, nothing else. Just an upper and lower control arm. That is supplied with new urethane bushings and new ball joints.
We just had another question come up, and in relation to the kit, does this involve a C-notch in the rear? And that is a no.
No C-notch in the rear. We did talk about if down the road, if you're doing a lot of towing, you have a boat or something, you can do a notch. This kit does not need it for what we're doing in the rear. But instead of doing a notch in the rear, you can also do an overload bag, something from Firestone or something. But no, this kit, it is only a flip kit in the rear and upper lower control arm in the front.
And it's odd you mentioned that that load stabilizing bag. We just had a question on that. Can you go a little bit more in depth on that?
For the rear?
Yeah.
Rear, just all that is it's basically an overload bag. It's much smaller than a airbag you would use to lower and raise your truck. And all it does is, if you like the old days, you used to have air shocks, and you put a load in the rear of the truck, or you put a trailer on the back. You just apply air to this little airbag. It sits along the side of the leaf spring itself, or just set under the leaf spring on these to the frame. And basically, it's just adding a little bit more pressure to the rear, so you're not bottoming out on on a heavier load, or like I said, towing a trailer.
So these are our nuts.
Ready for the spindle?
Yeah, we ditched the sway bar end links before we went live, and they come with new.
Oh, so it
come with replacements. So
this kit
before I trash them here,
gets rid of all the old bushings and goes to urethane for the sway. This is the end link for the sway bar, and that's supplied also with the kit. Didn't know that. You can just leave that all loose. Just put everything back together.
Yep.
And that'll be the last thing to tighten up.
So the bottom has to go for the top. We learned that on the other side.
Where's the right here?
Yep. And
Do you want to put the strip to the control arm first, or that on?
no, let's get this bad boy on here.
We'll get it the right way.
We'll try backwards to do that, right?
Okay, I'm going to bring the jack under.
Or just bolt it. Just bolt it.
Oh, you there?
There.
Jeremy don't need no jack. All right. Put this under there just so you can jack it up.
Yeah, we'll jack it up in a minute. Let's get that tight, and we'll tighten up the strut.
And I'm not putting a bunch of pressure on this. I'm just raising it up so we can get the strut to the lower control arm.
If you guys have ever done this before, the newer trucks have a 12, a 10, a 12, a 13, a 15, an 18, a 21, and a 24. So if you wonder why I'm second guessing every few minutes, that's why. So the guys that knock these out every day at shops have they'll have every tool lined up, but we don't do this every day, and we work on way too many different vehicles. So
Jeremy's showing you more real life, what this is going to take, and really it's not a whole lot. I mean, like he said, there's just a ton of different sizes, nuts, bolts here, and without doing this every single day to this particular truck, it's just going to take a little longer, but still easy.
Oh, did I say 19 a minute ago? Not 2.
So Jeremy just now is tightening up the upper ball joint. Here's what the control, here's this side that's already been done. This is kind of what we got going on. Just a real nice lower control arm. The upper control arm, like I said, this will lower the truck 4 inches in the front. No need to change out the strut or spring. In fact, you don't even have to unbolt the top of the strut. You can leave that in place and just unbolt it from the bottom, pull the lower control arm out, and bolt it back in.
Okay.
Now the rear of this is, right now the axle fits on the bottom of the spring, and with this kit it's going to allow us to flip that rear end on top of the spring, which will give us our drop that way. And Jeremy, I'm assuming you're gonna, once you finish this all up and we go off the air, you're gonna post some pictures of this truck online tonight to show everyone.
We will. We might go live just for a minute when we're putting the wheels. We'll show the wrapping up the back, because obviously we're not gonna sit here for 2 hours. But I think what we'll do is when we get to the end, we'll show the back all done and throw the wheels on and put it on the ground.
Cool.
And we haven't checked the back spacing yet either, so
you might want to watch.
Wheels are right there though.
Right here. Want to bring those in real quick? And Jeremy, what do we got? 22s here?
Those are 22 by 8.5. The rears are 22 by 10. I don't remember the back spacing off the top of my head.
Who makes the wheel?
That is US Mag. US Mag wheel and Falcon tires. Those are actually the same tires that we run on our F-150 project.
Do you know the tread wear on these things?
No.
They look like a pretty sporty tire though.
They, I've got no complaints.
I'd tell you guys the tread wear, but I certainly don't have my glasses on, so I can't see. I'm just pretending like I know what I'm doing.
We run them, like I said, we run them on one of our other project vehicles, and no issues whatsoever. We have a lot of good tire partners, but these are great. US Mag. Interesting story. They happen to be from my area, and the grandkids are friends and neighbors of mine. I think we're pretty solid. Anyway,
No, go ahead, Jeremy. Finish your story.
The US Mag story is pretty cool. They, their grandfather, it's the Hale family, and their grandfather started US Mag with Parnelli Jones and did off-road racing and road racing, and US Mag was in the company, and they ended up buying American Racing not long after, and a couple other wheel companies. several years later, they decided to merge them all in the 70s, and it became American Racing because that was the biggest brand at the time. All these years later, they now own MHT wheels. A guy came in with a bunch of vintage US mags one day, and they decided to look up the numbers and see if trademarks were available and anything like that happened, and they were. And they're now producing their original company from over 40 years ago, almost 50 years ago that their grandfather started, and they brought back the US mag. So they make all the vintage car stuff. It's a muscle car series, and then they do what's called the TRUCKIN series, which is kind of a play on trucking, so that works out good for us.
Pretty cool. So upper and lower control arms are all
Yeah,
bolted
yeah.
in. You got this all
Get a good
wrapped
look
up?
at this. Check out the wheels and tires one more time.
I'll just say something about later tonight, maybe we get more Facebook Live, finishing up the rear.
So what's left on the front is what we showed. We bolt the brake line and the ABS line back on, bolt the caliper on, put the sway bar end links in, and put the tie rod on, and some grease and some cotter pins. And that's 100% it. That's everything. So, and all we did before we started was loosen everything up. So that's, you know, times that, you know, add 20 or 30 minutes to this corner and times it by about 4, and that is doing a kit.
And we certainly weren't rushing. We were taking our time just to get everything done right. But I think Jeremy may do a little more Facebook Live towards the end of the rear install, maybe bolting the wheels on and then showing the stance and the final product when we're all finished.
Yeah, let's show before real quick, and then when we come back live in a couple hours, we'll show you the difference. So right now it's what they call spring over, and then when you hear about a flip kit on trucks, you go spring under. So the distance of moving this axle from here to the center of the axle from here to here is the distance of the drop. We replace, to give us some more room, we replace the bump stops, and there's a couple other pieces besides the shocks. But we'll try to get to where we're wrapping this up and throwing the wheels on and putting it on the ground and seeing where it sits. You all know what they look like stock. They're way too much fender gap unless you're lifting it. So we'll show you the after in a little while. All right.
Sounds good, Jeremy. Thanks for doing that explanation. And Jason, thanks for being here and helping out Jeremy.
Yeah, and we will be doing a lot more Facebook Lives, not only with TRUCKIN Magazine, but like I said, Street Rodder Magazine, Super Chevy Magazine, Classic Truck Magazine, Mustang Monthly. So stay tuned.
All right, gang, out there in Facebook land, we will be back. Thanks for following along.